Goddess, your host with the most, the gorgeous goat. Let's get in here with tarot for beginners. For beginners, understanding the tarot cards. Okay.
Tarot for beginners. Master the art of psychic tarot reading. Learn the secrets to understanding tarot cards and their meanings. Learn the history, symbolism, and divination of tarot reading. Written by Shelley O'Brien. Narrated by Lucy Cook. Introduction. Have you ever wanted to know what tarot is all about? Maybe there are people in your life that practice tarot, and you want to learn more about it before diving in yourself. Many people are drawn to tarot because of the air of mystery that surrounds it. Associated with fortune telling and the occult, tarot comes with certain negative connotations. You might have heard that you should only have a tarot deck in your possession if it was gifted to you, or that what you see in the cards will physically manifest in your life. We can thank pop culture and religion for warping the tarot's intentions. Forget everything that you think you know about tarot. What started as a hand-painted card game in Italy has evolved into a massive market catering to those seeking entertainment and tools for creating a deeper connection to our inner selves. Anyone can use tarot cards, and with some practice, you can learn to understand each card on its own and in relation to the other cards. In a nutshell, all tarot decks have 78 cards that are comprised of 22 major arcana cards and 56 minor arcana cards. Arcana can be translated as mystery, hidden, or secrets. In this book, we will delve into each card of the major arcana, which are emblematic and represent life lessons and karmic influences in our lives. We will also explore the minor arcana and the way they relate to what's happening in our daily lives. Because tarot allows us to tap into our psyches, the cards can act as a sort of spiritual guide for us to develop further understanding and connection in our lives. Developing a sense of connection with your tarot cards is a crucial step in the intuition and understanding that you'll develop when using them. We will explore ways to develop personal connections to each card and techniques for practicing how to perform readings for ourselves and others. Each of the major arcana descriptions contain potential references to questions that are being asked of the cards. This can help you learn to associate the type of question being asked to the representation given in the cards. As with anything that we want to be successful with, tarot requires patience and practice. When first learning how to read tarot cards, it's important that you keep an objective point of view and understand that it's okay to play with them if it's done respectfully. Once you've got a basic understanding of each card or suit, start practicing reading them in the reversed or upside down positions. No matter how long you may have been using tarot, you will always find new ways of interpreting cards and achieve insights that are only possible through time and experience.
Often as you can. You can use the meanings and interpretations in this audiobook to help you develop the right interpretation. This audiobook takes you through each card in the major and minor arcana. It details the different ways these cards can be interpreted. When you begin with tarot reading, use these interpretations to help you. You will soon learn to interpret with ease. I hope the information in this audiobook helps you with reading the card
and the natural world. This is also the realm of what you value, your relationship to money and possessions in the physical realm. The second house is self-sufficiency and sensuality, which is modified by the planets in and sign on the cusp of the house. Jupiter in the second house, for example, often represents a person with high self-worth and a great ability to make money, and they are also likely to love exploring nature. The third house, the house of communication. The third house is where we move into our conscious mind and begin to learn about the world around us. This is a day, inhale, and cadent house, because in this house we hone our perception and observation skills and gather information. We find our voice in this house, learn to write, and develop our communication styles. This house also represents our early education, learning style, and what kind of school student you are or were, as well as your siblings and neighbors. The third house is where we develop awareness of other points of view and the greater world around us. This is also the realm of transportation and short journeys, emails, gossip, phone calls, and text messaging, and it is ruled by Mercury and Gemini. Saturn in the third house, for example, could indicate a diligent student, but a person of few words. The fourth house, the house of the home. In the fourth house, we exhale again and enter the realm of the night and an angular house as we go within to both our home, as in where we live, and our inner home, the most private part of our inner life. This area of life represents the foundations of our security, both emotionally and materially. Your upbringing is reflected in this house, along with one or both of your parents and ancestral influences and patterns. In developmental terms, it's where we become aware of our inner emotional landscape and how we respond emotionally to the world around us. This house is associated with the moon and the sign of Cancer. One area of life that is often not mentioned is self-care and self-love. How you were nurtured and how you learn to nurture yourself and fulfill your emotional needs are reflected here, including the type of home you create or prefer. Someone with Pluto in the fourth house, for example, may have had a difficult childhood with power struggles of some kind within the home and may be driven to transform that in their own life, breaking ancestral patterns. Fifth house, the house of self-expression. The fifth house is a fire house, is associated with the sun and Leo, and is an inhalation of breath, a day energy, and succeedent house. This is where we develop our creative self-expression and joy in life. I always think of the fifth house in the soul's development as the teenager, the adolescent, and the place where we begin to shine our light in the world, where we develop our self-consciousness. This is the realm of children, fun, and joie de vivre, French for joy of life. It's where we take up hobbies and sports, where we learn to play, and it's the first of the relationship houses because it's where we find love affairs. Your performing ability and your life stage are reflected in the fifth house. An emphasis in this house would normally indicate someone drawn to the creative arts and someone who approaches the world in a joyful way. House systems. There are at least 50 different house systems, which are a means of dividing the horoscope. Some of the more commonly used systems are those of Porphyry, Placidus, Koch, and whole signs. Placidus is the default house system for much of the chart creation software and became the most popular because there were more tables of houses available when horoscopes were hand-drawn. Astrologers moving toward the Hellenistic revival tend to use whole signs, and many evolutionary astrologers use Porphyry, with some having moved to Koch, which is a newer system. There are many ways to divide space, and there's general agreement in many house systems that the horizon, known as the ascendant, starts the first house. The midheaven, zenith, starts the 10th house, and the houses are a division between the angles. My preferred system is Porphyry, which divides the space between the angles by 3, the Trinity. I do not, however, recommend a system, and I would encourage you to research for yourself to learn over time what you prefer. The sixth house, the house of service and health. The sixth house is associated with Virgo, an earth sign, and is ruled by Mercury. This is a night energy and is an exhale and a cadent house. The sixth house is where we find the need to be useful in the world, to be of service in our daily routines and work. Your day-to-day work experience, nature of work, and style of daily living are represented by this house. Health is also associated with the sixth house, as are your pets. In developmental terms, the sixth house is where we begin to figure out how we can make a contribution to the world and to others. It's where we begin to change from the inner landscape of personal development and grow into the outer world of adulthood. The night or exhale energy of the sixth house is a response to the world around us and a desire to create some order in the world. As such, cleansing and hygiene are connected, and your response to all outer stimuli is reflected here. Seventh house, the house of relationship and marriage. In the seventh house, our soul takes a big inhale and really enters the realm of the outer or adult world. This house is ruled by Libra and Venus in her more outward day incarnation and is a day and an angular house. This house correlates with the descendant, the point opposite the ascendant, which reflects what you are attracted to and what you attract in others. The seventh house is associated with all significant interpersonal relationships, including the main partner or partners in life. This house also includes adult children, significant business or work relationships, and significant friendships. The nature of and the patterns in your relationships are reflected in this house. Another area associated with this house is what Jung called the disowned self, which is a part of the self that we don't like and that we see in others. This can often be seen as something in others that triggers a strong emotional reaction of dislike. As the second of the relationship houses, the seventh house represents where we join in partnership by either living with or marrying a person. The eighth house builds on this in long-term relationships. Eighth house, the house of intimacy and death. Eighth house is another exhale and a night house, where we are plunged into all things associated with the dark and is associated with Pluto and Scorpio. This house is a succeedant house and is the realm of deeply bonded relationships, the long-term partnership that is connected emotionally, psychologically, and sexually. It's the energy of merging of life, resources, and spiritual bodies. This is the third relationship house and where the true intimacy of relationship exists in long-term relationships. This is also the realm of both physical and psychological death and
is in the form of an upright triangle, and the vases have become shallow cups. The elements of water and earth under her feet represent the opposites of nature, sharing impartially in the introduction. The word esoteric can be difficult to define. Esotericism in general can be seen less as a system of beliefs and more as a category which encompasses numerous different systems of beliefs. It's a bit of juxtaposition, since the word esoteric indicates something that few people know about, while the term itself broadly covers numerous philosophies, practices, areas of study, and belief systems. In a greater sense, esotericism acts as a storehouse for secret knowledge, which is often considered ancient by tradition, if not by fact, passed down from generation to generation in private. At various times in history, simply possessing the knowledge of some of these subjects was considered illegal and a jailable offense if discovered. This usually included such general topics as alchemy, Kabbalah, Hermeticism, occultism, ceremonial magic, astrology, divination, Rosicrucianism, and so on. Collectively, these areas of study were often referred to as the esoteric sciences. Sometimes the outer garment of a subject isn't esoteric, while what is hidden beneath it is. As an example, Freemasonry isn't necessarily esoteric by nature, at least not anymore. But certain signs, passwords, and handshakes given to the candidate during their initiation are in fact esoteric in the sense that they are hidden from the general public. Today, in the 21st century, such topics are readily available at bookstores across the country, and numerous mainstream publishers offer beginner's guides and coffee table volumes on many of these subjects intended for mass appeal. Books like The Secret have turned previously arcane topics into household knowledge. All that being the case, however, it isn't to say that there still aren't buried secrets to uncover, ancient wisdom being ignored, and forgotten mysteries to be explored. In fact, it is often that we are only able to further our own studies by standing on the shoulders of these disappearing giants. Lamp of Trismegistus is doing its part to help preserve humanity's esoteric history by making some of these classics available to those students who are seeking to unearth the knowledge of these ancient colossi. So be sure to check out our other titles in this series, as well as our Secrets of Alchemy series, Rosicrucian Collection, Theosophical Classics, and our Foundations of Freemasonry series. Analysis of the Tarot cards. Opinions of authorities differ widely concerning the origin of playing cards, the purpose for which they were intended, and the time of their introduction into Europe. In his researches into the history of playing cards, Samuel Weller Singer advances the opinion that cards reached southern Europe from India by way of Arabia. It is probable that the tarot cards were part of the magical and philosophical lore secured by the Knights Templars from the Saracens, or one of the mystical sects then flourishing in Syria. Returning to Europe, the Templars, to avoid persecution, concealed the arcane meaning of the symbols by introducing the leaves of their magical book ostensibly as a device for amusement and gambling. In support of this contention, Mrs. John King Van Rensselaer states that cards were brought by the home-returning warriors who imported many of the newly acquired customs and habits of the Orient to their own countries. Seems to be a well-established fact, and it does not contradict the statement made by some writers who declared that the gypsies, who about that time began to wander over Europe, brought with them and introduced cards, which they used, as they do at the present day, for divining the future. Through the gypsies, the tarot cards may be traced back to the religious symbolism of the ancient Egyptians. In his remarkable work, The Gypsies, Samuel Roberts presents ample proof of their Egyptian origin. In one place he writes, "When gypsies originally arrived in England is very uncertain. They are first noticed in our laws by several statutes against them in the reign of Henry VIII, in which they are described as an outlandish people, calling themselves Egyptians, who do not profess any craft or trade, but go about in great numbers. A curious legend relates that after the destruction of the Serapeum in Alexandria, the large body of attendant priests banded themselves together to preserve the secrets of the rites of Serapis. Their descendants, gypsies, carrying with them the most precious of the volumes saved from the burning library, the Book of Enoch, or Thoth, the Tarot, became wanderers upon the face of the earth, remaining a people apart with an ancient language and a birthright of magic and mystery." Codegebelin believed the word tarot itself to be derived from two Egyptian words, tar, meaning road, and ro, meaning royal. Thus, the tarot constitutes the royal road to wisdom. In his History of Magic, P. Christian, the mouthpiece of a certain French secret society, presents a fantastic account of a purported initiation into the Egyptian mysteries, wherein the 22 major tarots assume the proportions of trestle boards of immense size and line a great gallery. Stopping before each card in turn, the initiator describes its symbolism to the candidate. Edouard Schur, whose source of information was similar to that of Christians, hints at the same ceremony in his chapter on initiation into the Hermetic Mysteries. While Egyptians may well have employed the tarot cards in their rituals, these French mystics present no evidence other than their own assertions to support this theory. The validity also of the so-called Egyptian tarots now in circulation has never been satisfactorily established. The drawings are not only quite modern, but the symbolism itself savors of French rather than Egyptian influence. The tarot is undoubtedly a vital element in Rosicrucian symbolism, possibly the very book of universal knowledge which the members of the order claimed to possess. The Rota Mundi is a term frequently occurring in the original manifestos of the Fraternity of the Rose Cross. The word Rota, by a rearrangement of its letters, becomes Tarot, the ancient name of these mysterious cards. W.F.C. Wigston has discovered evidence that Sir Francis Bacon employed the Tarot symbolism in his ciphers. The numbers 21, 56, and 78, which are all directly related to the divisions of the Tarot deck, are frequently involved in Bacon's cryptograms. In the great Shakespearean folio of 1623, the Christian name of Lord Bacon appears 21 times on page 56 of the histories. Many symbols appearing upon the tarot cards have definite Masonic interest. The Pythagorean numerologist will also find an important relationship to exist between the numbers on the cards and the designs accompanying the numbers. The Kabbalist will be immediately impressed by the significant sequence of the cards, and the alchemist will discover certain emblems meaningless save to one versed in the divine chemistry of transmutation and regeneration. As the Greeks placed the letters of their alphabet with their corresponding numbers upon the various parts of the body of their humanly represented logos, so the tarot cards have an analogy not only in the parts and members of the universe, but also in the divisions of the human body. They are, in fact, the key to the magical constitution of man. The tarot cards must be considered, 1, as separate and complete hieroglyphs, each representing a distinct principle, law, power, or element in nature. 2, in relation to each other as the effect of one agent operating upon another. And 3, as vowels and consonants of a philosophic alphabet. The laws governing all phenomena are represented by the symbols upon the tarot cards, whose numerical values are equal to the numerical equivalents of the phenomena. As every structure consists of certain elemental parts, so the tarot card represents the components of the structure of philosophy. Irrespective of the science or philosophy with which the student is working, the tarot cards can be identified with the essential constituents of his subject, each card thus being related to a specific part according to mathematical and philosophical laws. An imprisoned person, writes Eliphas Levi, with no other book than the tarot, if he knew how to use it, could in a few years acquire universal knowledge and would be able to speak on all subjects with unequaled learning and inexhaustible eloquence. The diverse opinions of eminent authorities on the tarot symbolism are quite irreconcilable. The conclusions of the scholarly Codegebelin and the bizarre Grand Etilia, the first authorities on the subject, not only are at radical variance, but both are equally discredited by Levi, whose arrangement of the tarot trumps was rejected in turn by Arthur Edward Waite and Paul Case as being an effort to mislead students. The followers of Levi, especially Papus, Christian, Westcott, and Schur, are regarded by the Reformed Tarotists as honest but benighted individuals who wandered in darkness for lack of Pamela Coleman Smith's new deck of tarot cards with revisions by Mr. Waite. Most writers on the tarot, Mr. Waite a notable exception, have proceeded upon the hypothesis that the 22 major trumps represent the letters of the Hebrew alphabet. This supposition is based upon nothing more substantial than the coincidence that both consist of 22 parts. That Postel, St. Martin, and Levi all wrote books divided into sections corresponding to the major tarots is an interesting sidelight on the subject. The major trump cards portray incidents from the book of Revelation, and the Apocalypse of St. John is also divided into 22 chapters. Assuming the Kabbalah to hold the solution to the tarot riddle, seekers have often ignored other possible lines of research. The task, however, of discovering the proper relationship sustained by the tarot trumps to the letters of the Hebrew alphabet and the paths of wisdom thus far has not met with any great measure of success. The major trumps of the tarot and the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet cannot be synchronized without first fixing the correct place of the unnumbered or zero card Lamont, the Fool. Levi places this card between the 20th and 21st tarots, assigning it to the Hebrew letter Shin. The same order is followed by Papus, Christian, and Waite, the last, however, declaring this arrangement to be incorrect. Westcott makes the zero card the 22nd of the tarot major trumps. On the other hand, both Codegebelin and Paul Case place the unnumbered card before the first numbered card of the major trumps. For if the natural order of the numbers, according to either the Pythagorean or Kabbalistic system, be adhered to, the zero card must naturally precede the number 1. This does not dispose of the problem, however, for efforts to assign a Hebrew letter to each tarot trump in sequence produce an effect far from convincing. Mr. Waite, who re-edited the tarot, expresses himself thus: I am not to be included among those who are satisfied that there is a valid correspondence between Hebrew letters and tarot trump symbols. The real explanation may be that the major tarots no longer are in the same sequence as when they formed the leaves of Hermes' sacred book. For the Egyptians, or even their Arabian successors, could have purposely confused the cards so that their secrets might be better preserved. Mr. Case has developed a system which, while superior to most, depends largely upon two debatable points, namely the accuracy of Mr. Waite's revised tarot and the justification for assigning the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet to the unnumbered or zero card. Since Aleph, the first Hebrew letter, has the numerical value of 1, its assignment to the zero card is equivalent to the statement that 0 is equal to the letter Aleph and therefore synonymous with the number 1. With rare insight, Codegebelin assigned the zero card to Ein Sof, the unknowable first cause. As the central panel of the Bimbine table represents the creative power surrounded by 7 triads of manifesting divinities, so may the zero card represent that eternal power for which the 21 surrounding or manifesting aspects are but limited expressions. If the 21 major trumps be considered as limited forms existing in the abstract substance of the zero card, it then becomes their common denominator. Which letter, then, of the Hebrew alphabet is the origin of all the remaining letters? The answer is apparent: Yod. In the presence of so many speculations, one more may not offend. The zero card, Lamont, the Fool, has been likened to the material universe because the mortal sphere is the world of unreality. The lower universe, like the mortal body of man, is but a garment, a motley costume, well likened to cap and bells. Beneath the garments of the fool is the divine substance, however, of which the jester is but a shadow. This world is a Mardi Gras, a pageantry of divine sparks masked in the garb of fools. Was not this zero card, the fool, placed in the tarot deck to deceive all who could not pierce the veil of illusion? The tarot cards were entrusted by the illumined hierophants of the mysteries into the keeping of the foolish and the ignorant, thus becoming playthings, in many instances even instruments of vice. Man's evil habits therefore actually become the unconscious perpetrators of his philosophical precepts. We must admire the wisdom of the initiates, writes Papus, who utilized vice and made it produce more beneficial results than virtue. Does not this act of the ancient priests itself afford proof that the entire mystery of the tarot is wrapped up in the symbolism of its zero card? If knowledge was thus entrusted to fools, should it not be sought for in this card? If Lamott be placed before the first card of the tarot deck, and the others laid out in a horizontal line in sequence from left to right, it will be found that the fool is walking toward the other trumps, as though about to pass through the various cards. Like the spiritually hoodwinked and bound neophyte, Lamott is about to enter upon the supreme adventure, that of passage through the gates of divine wisdom. If the zero card be considered as extraneous to the major trumps, this destroys the numerical analogy between these cards and the Hebrew letters by leaving one letter without a tarot correspondent. In this event, it will be necessary to assign the missing letter to a hypothetical tarot card called the Elements, assumed to have been broken up to form the 56 cards of the minor trumps. It is possible that each of the major trumps may be subject to a similar division. The first numbered major trump is called Le Battleur, the juggler, and according to Code Geblin, indicates the entire fabric of creation to be but a dream. Existence a juggling of divine elements, and life a perpetual game of hazard. The seeming miracles of nature are but feats of cosmic legerdemain. Man is like the little ball in the hands of the juggler, who waves his wand and presto, the ball vanishes. The world looking on does not realize that the vanished article is still cleverly concealed by the juggler in the hollow of his hand. This is also the adept whom Omar Khayyam calls the master of the show. His message is that the wise direct the phenomena of nature and are never deceived thereby. The magician stands behind a table on which are spread out a number of objects, prominent among them a cup, the Holy Grail, and the cup placed by Joseph in Benjamin's sack. A coin, the tribute money and the wages of a master builder, and a sword, that of Goliath, and also the mystic blade of the philosopher which divides the false from the true. The magician's hat is in the form of the cosmic limniscate, signifying the first motion of creation. His right hand points to the earth. His left holds aloft the rod of Jacob, and also the staff that budded, the human spine, crowned with the globe of creative intelligence. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot, the magician wears an uraeus, or golden band, around his forehead. The table before him is in the form of a perfect cube, and his girdle is the serpent of eternity, devouring its own tail. The second numbered major trump is called Le Papus, the female pope, and has been associated with a curious legend of the only woman who ever sat in the pontifical chair. Pope Joan is supposed to have accomplished this by masquerading in male attire, and was stoned to death when her subterfuge was discovered. This card portrays a seated woman crowned with a tiara surmounted by a lunar crescent. In her lap is the Torah, or Book of the Law, usually partly closed, and in her left hand are the keys to the secret doctrine, one gold and the other silver. Behind her rise two pillars, Jachin and Boaz, with a multicolored veil stretched between. Her throne stands upon a checkerboard floor. A figure called Juno is occasionally substituted for Le Papus. Like the female Hierophant of the Mysteries of Sybil, this symbolic figure personifies the Shekinah, or divine wisdom. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot, the priestess is veiled, a reminder that the full countenance truth is not revealed to uninitiated man. A veil also covers one half of her book, thus intimating that but one half of the mystery of being can be comprehended. The third numbered major trump is called L'Imperatrice, the Empress, and has been likened to the woman clothed with the sun, described in the Apocalypse. On this card appears the winged figure of a woman seated upon a throne, supporting with her right hand a shield emblazoned with a phoenix, and holding in her left a scepter surmounted by an orb or trifoliate flower. Beneath her left foot is sometimes shown the crescent. Either the empress is crowned or her head is surrounded by a diadem of stars, sometimes both. She is called Generation and represents the threefold spiritual world out of which proceeds the fourfold material world. To the graduate of the College of the Mysteries, she is the alma mater, out of whose body the initiate has born again. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot, the empress is shown seated upon a cube filled with eyes, and a bird is balanced upon the forefinger of her left hand. The upper part of her body is surrounded by a radiant golden nimbus, being emblematic of the power from which emanates the entire tangible universe. L'Imperatrice is frequently symbolized as pregnant. The fourth numbered major trump is called L'Emperor, the Emperor, and by its numerical value is directly associated with the great deity revered by the Pythagoreans under the form of the tetrad. His symbols declare the Emperor to be the demiurgus, the great king of the inferior world. The Emperor
and theirs is simply me describing a dynamic that you may have with someone else. And that could be anybody, family, friend, coworker. I don't know. Virgo got a double. Ah, they got the bang for their buck. They had me check in on 2 people. What's going on, please, for Capricorn, the person? But no, that's it. Yes, I do read from the point of view of love, as that's most people's general interest in yours and theirs. But yeah, you apply it as it applies to you. That's it. There you go. So basic rules apply. Take it resonance, say what does not. Reverse energies as it applies, more so with yours and theirs, as energy interchange and exchange is real, rapid, and fluid. That's it.